Welcome to the Jerry Acuff Show. Today's show, it says here on this thing, I'm pleased to have Bryce McBeth. That's not true. I'm excited to have Bryce here because Bryce started his career at IBM, but as a client, he realized that there was a need for a better marketing agency that specialized in conversions and marketing optimization. Now, this is actually an area that I have a huge interest in because I think the world is moving towards a dominance by digital marketing. I think there's so few real experts on this, and so to meet somebody with his experience and expertise is huge. So what did he do? He started REAP Marketing in 2009. And following that, he decided to run his own successful e-commerce company, basically putting into practice everything that he teaches his clients to build a successful business called StandishSalonGoods.com to serve the salon industry. Now, like any great entrepreneur, in his free time, he gives back by mentoring at the Dallas Entrepreneur Center and leads Project EDU. And we are thrilled to have Bryce McBeth here. Welcome, Bryce.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
So, Bryce, tell us a little bit about yourself and your companies. I mean, you and I had a discussion here this morning before we got started, and I mentioned to you how fascinated I am with digital marketing, how my personal bias is that traditional marketing is only a distant cousin to digital marketing. So talk to me a little bit about yourself and about these companies that you've created.
Yeah. So, I studied Chinese in school, which is an obvious sort of precursor to getting into digital marketing. As it says here, started with IBM, built one of the first web analytics platforms, so kind of Google Analytics before
Right.
Google Analytics was invented. Realized at some point there was a need for this conversion-based marketing agency. Started REAP. We do a lot of A/B testing, so putting really specific numbers and science behind how people do what they do. And I find that gives me some new insights every day as to how people, perceive and consume, content or shop for products and things like that. So it's just this world of things that continue to surprise me and provide me this sort of sense of never-ending learning. So it's been a lot of fun.
So I want you to talk a little bit about this concept of conversion optimization. Mm-hmm. Now, part of my interest is selfishly, I've just launched a virtual training program, Jerry Acuff VT, which is everything I know about selling, relationship building, goal setting, and coaching selling. Mm-hmm. And this virtual training platform, which is absolutely world-class from a company called Lightspeed VT in Las Vegas. And what I find is that as someone who was recently named, the best marketing CEO in in North America for pharmaceuticals, what I've learned about marketing has virtually no relevance for this new venture. And I don't know that everybody talks about SEO and search engine optimization, and I know that's important, but your discussion in mine this morning about conversion optimization sort of took my awareness and interest to a different level. Could you sort of explain what that means and why it's so relevant and why it's such a critical focus of what you do?
Right. So one of the biggest differences, I think, with digital marketing and traditional is the fact that digital is so marvelously measurable, right? You can see exactly how many times people saw your ad but didn't even click on it.
Right.
Or people that clicked on it that came to your website and left. Or people that came to the website and browsed around but didn't do anything. Email is the same way, right? So how many people actually received the email? How many people opened the email? How many people clicked through the email? And ultimately, none of those metrics really matter. It only matters how many people actually took an action that's of value to you. So we have all this data that tells us what people are doing and how they're doing it, when they're doing it. The important part is sifting through it to figure out what's most important and what you're going to do about it.
Right.
A lot of times we're using data to look in the rearview mirror, but we're not sort of projecting changes we can make to change the numbers. So CRO, as you asked and alluded to, is much different than SEO, not to be confused with SEO. SEO is the science behind getting ranked on a search engine so that more people know that you exist. Conversion rate optimization is the art and science behind running tests and doing things to your website to get more people to do business with you. So the sad truth is that 1% of all of our visitors on average will convert into either a lead or a sale.
Gotcha.
It's pretty miserable, right? So as marketers, we obsessed with going and telling more people that we exist and getting more people to our website and more people that know about our brand. But the reality is there's 99 times the number of people who are buying from us that are already on our website, ready to stroke a check or swipe their credit card, that aren't doing anything. So there's 99 more times opportunity already on the website.
So what you're saying, if I hear you correctly, I mean, I have this fundamental belief that everything in life ought to be simpler. And so when I think about selling, and to me, what you're talking about is selling, right? Mm-hmm. It's digital selling, but it's still me getting somebody to want to buy, right? Three things have to happen. One is I have to get you to want to listen.
Right.
So somehow or another, your ad, your web page, whatever, has got to get me interested, which means it needs to create some kind of interest or curiosity. The second thing you have to do is you got to get me to think differently, right? I don't act differently if I don't think differently. And so somehow or another, there's got to be a trigger that makes that person in that digital space actually say, gee, I didn't think of it that way. I'd really like to understand what this person learns. And then lastly, you have to figure out how to get people to act. Is that analogy meaningful?
It's right on, right? So I teach this concept to entrepreneurs called the $5 marketing budget. And the $5 marketing budget really helps sort of identify, what you have to do to get in front of people in these very affordable ways that you can sort of scream from the mountaintops, right? But along the way, we're teaching them how you back into the numbers to figure out what it's going to take to actually get a sale.
Right.
And we're thinking about budgets in terms of limiting funds so that your expenditures are very predictable, right? That doesn't guarantee you're going to actually make any money.
Right.
It just guarantees that you can put the file away in a drawer and know that you're spending what you told yourself you would spend.
Right.
So along the way, we're articulating all these numbers that indicate how many people are even searching for what you have or fit the target that you're shooting for, how many people saw that, and then how many people were actually interested in your concept or your advertisement.
Right.
How many people actually took an action to click on it and then look at the website and see if it's right for them. And then how many of them are actually engaged because you're saying enough good things where they're starting to think differently. Maybe they drill into the page further, read more pages, spend more time, add things to their cart. And then there's ultimately the conversion element, which is how many people are actually signing up for anything from the newsletter to putting something in their cart and swiping their card. So those metrics are really where you've done all of the things that you just talked about in a fashion that really convince somebody to not just appreciate what you're doing and think differently, but actually take the action to invest their time into doing something different.
Right. So is it right for me to think, though, that the fundamental premise of your marketing agency is really the marriage of analytics and algorithms with sort of the marketing genius necessary to be great at digital marketing? Is that the right way to look at it? Which to me is a rare sort of combination. Yep. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know a lot about marketing, but I don't know anything about this kind of marketing. And how do you look at all this data, which, historically the advertisers used to say, look, I know half of my advertising works. I just don't know which half it is. Mm-hmm. Now what you're saying is, right, I know exactly which half is working and which half isn't working.
Yep.
Or at least I've got a far better sense of what that looks like. And then if you marry your analytics with your marketing genius or wisdom with what I think is the exponential opportunity with the internet, it's what can create huge success, correct?
Right. Well, so science and analytics, yes. Genius, I don't know. I think there are geniuses that work in this space that we work that are very successful. But if you really sort of looked at it, our process looks like a sixth grade science experiment, right?
Right.
Like all you have to do is have a hypothesis, an idea, and you have to have the willingness to be wrong and admit that you're wrong and want to see the data to see how other people perceive your idea, right? So the genius is in having the moxie and the wherewithal and the willingness to put it into a system that'll actually A/B test it and tell you statistically which version of the idea produces more
Right.
sales. So really, I think the bottom line is yes, science and analytics, yes, and intellectual curiosity, yes.
I would also submit to you that my definition of genius is the ability to take something complex and make it simple. And it sounds like to me that you've done exactly that. So
That can be really hard.
Huh?
Yeah, that can be really hard.
It is.
You know when
And-
something's
and- yeah.
genius when
And
you
so
look at
I'm
something.
going to call you a genius. You can call yourself whatever you want. But I think there's a lot of genius involved in that, particularly if you can take somebody from a 1% conversion rate to 2%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a 100% increase,
Well, it's going to double your sales with the same amount of money that you're spending today if you can do that.
which to me is absolutely incredible. Let me talk a little bit about how you got involved in the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. I mean, I'm really interested in, you basically created these entrepreneurial organizations, and then you're not satisfied just to do that. You want to go back and share. What would you say about how you got involved in that, and what's it doing for you?
Yeah, well, there's always sort of a personal angle on it, or a semi-selfish perspective on it, and then there's the willingness to help and eager to share experiences and see other people benefit, so that I'm not hoarding my own insights and the things I've learned along the way, but I can see that the things that I've learned are actually helping other people. That feels really good.
Right.
But the relationship developed over a couple of mutual friends that we got introduced to the founders over there at the Dallas Entrepreneur Center, and initially I was looking to see if I could help them with their conversion on their website, right? Like they want people to come in to take a tour of the space and see if they want to co-work or meet with their mentors or whatnot. And what we found was that that in and of itself was a lot of fun, but they're nonprofit startups. There's not a whole lot there to provide billable services. But I did really love fall in love with the space and the people. Volunteered to become a mentor, so I had a chance to sit on one-on-one with some of these startup companies and hear their ideas and hear their passion and the things that they were running up against that was stopping them from sort of their next major milestone, right?
Right.
So that was a lot of fun, and I find that by helping these guys, in turn, I end up coming up with my own great ideas for my own businesses. So if I really do feel like the more you give, the more you get, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, you can look into it however you want to look at it, but ultimately, it's really fun to hear all this these great ideas, provide some insights, and benefit myself. I think you would agree that positive energy breeds more positive energy, right? So
Well, it's also great being around other, to people that are really smart, they're coming up with all these ideas. I'm involved with the Entrepreneur Club at my college, and it's exciting to see what these young people are coming up with, and it does sort of give you some ideas. What are some of the fundamentals of mentorship that guide you to help other people succeed?
the fundamentals of mentorship. I'm not sure I have any fundamentals. I don't know. No, I don't know. I think it's a lot of it's just sort of listening,
Yes.
and not trying to convince them to do one thing or another, but guiding them through their options and different frameworks for thinking of different solutions.
Right.
Instead of spoon feeding them and insisting that they go do a lot more work, right?
Right.
They've got enough work to do.
Right.
I think maybe the other fundamental, if I thought about it, would be really trying to build relationships. Like we talked about it a little bit a while ago. All these startup companies, especially the web-based or app-based, assume that they launch this business and launch a website, and all of a sudden more money's just going to start pouring into their bank account. And especially in a B2B scenario, business to business, it takes a lot of outreach and nurturing of these relationships to make something happen, instead of just assuming people are going to come through a website and swipe their credit card. So a fundamental is sort of very much involved with relationships, and even if the relationships aren't with would-be clients, it might be with other people at the Entrepreneur Center,
Right.
and connecting with people who can help them in other areas of their business.
Yeah, I think basically the same philosophy you do. One is you got to listen to them and trying to understand what their idea is. Secondly, you give them some advice about things that maybe they haven't thought of. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I find, and I do right much mentoring myself, is most people really underestimate how long it's going to take to be successful. And do you find that in your, and not only that it's going to take longer, but their plans oftentimes are not nearly as comprehensive as they need to be.
Yeah, a lot of them are very naive about that aspect of it. I teach a concept, actually the one I mentioned a while ago, the $5 marketing budget,
Right.
which sort of in the early stages or early part of that presentation, we talk about a frame of reference, which is the other startups that they believe are wildly successful that have just popped up on the scene. Everything from like Facebook, Uber, Airbnb. These companies seem to have just popped up out of nowhere, making billions of dollars. In reality, a lot of them have been at it for 10 or 15 years and have gone through an evolution on their own, lots of changes. And you look at a company like Uber that seems wildly successful, but lost $3 billion last year. So, I think our perception of what's out there and our ability to just turn it on and it be a cash cow tomorrow is kind of delusional in a lot of cases. So bringing that sense of reality is, without discouraging their idea or the path they're on is kind of a delicate balance.
Yeah, because you want them to be sober about it. I mean, you want them to have some understanding of what is actually a realistic expectation. I know in my experience, everything takes longer, and usually it takes more, than you thought it did. And almost always something happens in that sort of early stage, process that throws you a big loop.
Mm-hmm.
You find out something that you didn't know before. I got an app that I developed called Really Linked, and I've been working on it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically how do you stay connected to the people that you most want to stay connected with. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool, but it doesn't help you manage your network.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created this app called Really Linked, and I keep thinking I'm really close to having it launched, but it's not perfect yet. And so I'm actually meeting this coming week with a group from China that does development, and I'm meeting with them on Friday, and I'm going to share it with them and see what they think. And and I could take it in a completely different direction, but I'm not in any hurry because I don't have any major reason to be in a hurry. The thing will ultimately be free, but I mean, it's taken 5 or 6 different turns that I would never have expected. But if you believe in it, I think the other thing that I try and pass on to the people I mentor, if you really believe in it, don't give up on it just because it's hard.
Yeah.
Don't give up on it because there's a bump in the road.
Well, you hear don't give up on it, and a lot of people interpret that as keep doing the same thing even when you, hit these failures. But a lot of times, if you really sort of after you see a pattern, we run these tests called the 3 random guys test. Right, 3 random guys will come in and tell you, I don't like this, this or that on the website. You hear it 3 times, and you think, well, these guys are idiots. You throw them out, and you go get 3 more guys. And they tell you, well, I don't like this about the website. So those guys are idiots. So you throw them out and get 3 more guys. And at some point, it's not the guys, it's your website, right?
That's right.
So the willingness to, get to the next, or get to the insight that's going to get you your next version of what you thought was going to be a winner, that book has been written. But when you talk about fundamentals, that's certainly something that comes up a lot is trying to encourage, a collection of these insights to drive changes that's going to actually make it a much bigger opportunity for them than what they originally came up with.
Right. But I also think that, what I love is, 2 things I tell people. If you're going to be wildly successful, number one, you got to be really great at what you do, whatever it is. The second thing is you better have a network where being great at it matters. Mm-hmm. And so to me, a big part of what I try and do when I mentor, and it sounds like you do too, is to help people make connections that maybe they wouldn't have made on their own because those connections could be really meaningful. And it can be, here's another software developer to consider, or here's another person that you ought to get advice from. Like you said, this 3 random people. I always say if 2 people tell you you're drunk, lay down. I mean, you probably are drunk. And so I wrote a book called Stop Acting Like a Seller, Start Thinking Like a Buyer. And one of the things I tell all my clients is that, look, if you want to know what your customers think, here's a big idea. Ask them. Yeah. But you got to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And if 3 people tell you, y'all probably ought to have enough self-awareness and enough lack of ego to say, well, maybe this pig is ugly. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about Project EDU and why that's important to you.
Yeah, Project EDU is an education program for startups hosted at the Dallas Entrepreneur Center. This is a program they started, I want to say, a couple years ago, and the idea originally was for during the summer months they'd bring different speakers in the evenings to talk about various topics. And they booked up almost every show, but the ones that people were most interested in were the marketing and sales pieces. So everybody knew that they had to get to accounting at some point, but it wasn't really what they were passionate about. There's no books to balance until they got sales in the books, right? So there's this overwhelming need for more marketing information to be taught at these Project EDU sessions, and but it was also a lot of time and effort to put these events together and find the different hosts. So I offered after I wrote the book, and we made a conscious effort to go build a program to help startups and entrepreneurs and small businesses volunteer to basically take over the program and make it a co-branded program between Project EDU and BryceMcBeth.com. So it's really cool because I think we're coming up with these programs like SEO's a hoax and the $5 marketing budget, which sort of challenge the status quo. And the whole point really isn't that you shouldn't do SEO. The point is you should think differently about SEO, especially as a startup, because things like search engine optimization can take a long time to come to fruition and might not even guarantee you any sales.
Right.
So it's really fun to just sort of like shake it up a little bit, bring a different perspective and watch people respond to, a new way of thinking about things. And we try to deliver it in a way, with actionable, worksheets during the process where they have a very clear next step when they leave the session. Many of them are putting their idea to work the moment they walk out the door.
Gotcha.
We couple that with some one-on-one mentorship opportunities. So we bring my coaches that consult on $5,000 and $10,000 a month engagements are there to help these startups get their idea implemented.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun.
I'm not going to let you leave without telling my audience about this book, Salon Chairs Don't Sell Themselves, a book for conversion rate optimization seekers. I cannot wait to read this. I will read this on the plane tomorrow when I'm flying back to Virginia. 21 pitfalls your online company can totally avoid. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of how this came to be and what people can read? To me, and this is just my belief, if we don't, if you want to be relevant in 4 years, this is just my random thought. If you want to be relevant in 4 years, you have to understand the power of social media and the internet and digital marketing. And anybody that's not studying that, to me, is going to have a hard time being relevant. And I don't care how old you are, I don't care how young you are, those things are really important. And it's books like these that make this actually understandable. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really easy book for you. It'll take 30, 45 minutes.
Lots of pictures.
Lots of pictures. It's color by number. No, just kidding. So the other thing, hopefully this brings to light to you, is the conversion element of what to do on, when people come to your website after they discover you on social media or advertisements or search engines or email or whatever, what you should do with the website to convince more of them to actually buy from you. And I think you'll have that awareness after you read the book. It'll really kind of bring it to life. But basically, this book came about because I was telling my story over and over and over about how I hired my own agency to build an e-commerce company and make it successful.
Right.
And the things that we did to test and optimize the site experience once people got to the website. So it will end up becoming my own best case study. Was me being my own client. After telling the case study over and over and over, I realized that the story just needed to be documented and made available to more people. So we literally, transcribed it into a book and kicked it around with our team and got it to a point where we felt comfortable and confident in printing it, and that's what we did. So,
so where can people get it?
They can get it on my website at BryceMcBeth.com.
Bryce McBeth. MCBETH.
Yep, Bryce BRICE.
BRICE.
MCBETH.
MCBETH.com.
.com. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, I would recommend everybody to go to BryceMcBeth.com and look at this book, and you ought to buy it. I mean, to me, if you want to jumpstart understanding the internet and digital marketing, this is probably as fast a way as you can do it. And I am so grateful that you were a guest on our show. I'm glad to meet you, and you and I have only begun our relationship, because I'm going to get you to help me figure out how to sell my own virtual training program. But anyway, thank you for coming in. Thanks for all you do for other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Listen, I really think this is a terrific opportunity for people that are listening to this to really start to understand the power of the internet and the power of digital marketing and the power of this whole concept of conversion rate optimization. Because if you're going to be successful selling something, or if you're going to be buying something, understanding this is probably really, really important. I'm a big believer that the person who knows the most about the situation controls the situation. I don't know nearly enough about this, and I want to learn about it because I want to be relevant. And above all, I want to leave you with my final thought, which is no matter what you do or how you do it, always be incredible.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.